Hi everyone, welcome to Forbes Flash. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. And stick around, because later on, we'll have Forbes tech reporter Parmi Olson discussing the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal, everything you need to know, and what's next. Mark Zuckerberg has had a rough week for a few reasons. After the latest PR nightmare to hit Facebook, more on that later, the company's stock plummeted. With that, so did Zuck's fortune. It was down $5.1 billion in mere hours earlier this week. He owns about 16% of Facebook shares and is now worth an estimated $69.5 billion. It was a similarly rough week for fellow billionaire Larry Ellison. The founder of software firm Oracle lost $5 billion on Tuesday, also due to a fall in his company's stock. 85% of Ellison's net worth lies in Oracle shares, so the plunging stock had a direct effect on his wealth. Here's a few stories you might have missed from this past week. You can rent Donald Trump's beach house on Airbnb if you'd like. The St. Martin estate is available for anyone willing to shell out $11,418 a night. The estate has 9 bedrooms, 11 if you count the living quarters for the help, plus a heated beachfront pool, gym, and tennis court. The home also comes with its own chef and experienced security staff, according to the listing. The Weinstein Company filed for bankruptcy this week after a last-ditch effort to sell the company to a consortium of investors a few weeks ago fell through. Dallas-based private equity firm Lantern Capital Partners will purchase the company's assets for $310 million in cash. The company also announced that it would release those who had signed confidentiality agreements with it. Pending lawsuits will go on pause, and no new lawsuits can be filed against the company. Suits against Harvey Weinstein, however, won't be stopped by the bankruptcy. It may feel like we talk about the effects of climate change impacting those in future generations, but extreme heat waves could impact the western United States very soon. A recent study found that the impacts of humanity's carbon footprint may help drive more extreme summer heat as soon as the 2020s. Heat waves are already the top cause of weather-related death in the U.S., and they've become more frequent and intense in recent decades. People living in California, Nevada, and the arid parts of Oregon, Utah, Arizona, and Idaho will be the first to experience the new era of climate patterns. It's almost time to reveal the top young leaders of Asia. Our 30 Under 30 Asia launches this upcoming Monday. Get excited and follow along with hashtag Forbes U30 Asia. A tragic story came out of Tempe, Arizona this week as a pedestrian was struck and killed by a self-driving Uber. The specially equipped, fully autonomous Volvo SUV was undergoing real-world testing and had a human motorist behind the wheel to take control if necessary. Uber has immediately halted all autonomous car testing in Arizona, California, and Pittsburgh, and an investigation is ongoing to determine what happened in the accident. This is a major setback for those racing to get the first self-driving car on the road. Companies like Uber, Waymo, Alphabet, and General Motors. Only time will tell how this tragedy will impact those efforts, many of which have goals as early as next year. Joining us now is Forbes reporter Parmi Olson to discuss the Cambridge Analytica scandal and what it means for Facebook.
Over the weekend, on Saturday, a subcontractor for Cambridge Analytica spoke to the New York Times and the Observer newspaper to talk about how Cambridge Analytica actually took data from people on Facebook to help it create a campaign for Donald Trump when he was running for the presidential election.
I think everyone knew that, we were wading into a gray area.
Cambridge Analytica is a political advisory firm. It was spun out of a larger firm called SCL, Strategic Communications Laboratory. This was a company that was used to create social media campaigns. It's got lots of data analysts working for it, and they work on campaigns across Asia, across Europe, often incognito. So Cambridge Analytica used the data that came from an academic at Cambridge University. This academic made an app. It was a personality quiz that he posted on Facebook. Anyone could download it and answer questions about themselves. And in doing those questions, they'd find out a little bit about their own personality. In the back end, that app was actually taking personal data about those people who downloaded the app and also data on all those people's friends. So 270,000 people downloaded the app, but all those people had friends on Facebook, which is why Cambridge Analytica, through this app, was able to get data on more than 50 million people. Cambridge Analytica's approach to data is something called psychographic profiling. There's still some questions about whether that actually works as a method for targeting and profiling people. They use this understanding and the data that they collected from the app to inform the marketing that they did on behalf of the Donald Trump campaign. They created content, they released that content on Facebook, and they used their methods, their data analytical methods, to target people, to profile people, and to encourage them to essentially vote for Donald Trump in the presidential election. I was able to sit down with the CEO of Cambridge Analytica, Alexander Nix, in March 2017. Nix came across as quite defensive at first. He'd already been getting a lot of bad press, and from the moment I started asking him questions, he seemed angry, he was frowning a lot. He said that journalists came in with suppositions before even exploring what was really going on with his company. He definitely seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder about the press. When I asked Alexander Nix if Steve Bannon, who was Trump's campaign strategist at one time, was on the board of Cambridge Analytica, Nix didn't really want to answer the question, but he did say that he had spoken to Steve Bannon every day for 5 years. He even had a yellow notepad on his desk that had the words Bannon and lobbying scrawled in pen and underlined. So clearly there was a strong relationship between Bannon and Cambridge Analytica, and directly between Nix and Bannon. The Cambridge academic who made the personality quiz, whose name was Alexander Kogan, passed all the data that he collected from those people who filled out his quiz onto Cambridge Analytica. Now, under Facebook's terms, that was against the rules. You're not supposed to pass on data like that to a third party, which is why Facebook, over time, when they found out that this had happened, they called on Cambridge Analytica to delete that data. Now, what people are upset about now is, first of all, that Facebook did not disclose to users that this data had been collected by the company. And it's also hard to determine whether Facebook can make other companies accountable to what they're doing with that data. How can Facebook actually make sure that Cambridge Analytica has deleted data on 50 million users? It raises more questions. How many other businesses have collected data in this way? How is Facebook actually keeping track of whether businesses are deleting this data or not? Now, people have been talking for some time about the problems that Facebook, the company's faced a lot of criticism in the past year over its ability to contain fake news, trolls, supposed actors from the Russian state coming onto the platform, using it to set up fake accounts and encourage people to vote for Donald Trump or vote for whatever political party, but basically having a polarizing effect on any kind of political discussion on Facebook, making it very, very unpleasant. So Facebook is already dealing with this, and there's a lot of questions about why now this news story has had such an impact that people are seriously talking about deleting their accounts on Facebook. The hashtag #DeleteFacebook has been gaining momentum on Twitter, so much so that even one of the co-founders of WhatsApp, Brian Acton, joined in just on Tuesday. Late at night, he posted on Twitter, "It is time," and he put the hashtag #DeleteFacebook. This was really shocking for anybody in Silicon Valley who's been watching this, because Facebook bought his company, WhatsApp, for $19 billion just 4 years ago. He's a major beneficiary of Facebook shares. Facebook's drop in its stock price affects his own valuation, but clearly he believes strongly enough that Facebook's data sharing practices have been a problem. What I think really made this story so significant for people and resonated with people is we had this whistleblower coming out and explaining basically how the sausage gets made. For the first time, people can see how many details can be scraped from Facebook. People have known for years that advertisers can get our data on Facebook, they can target us with ads, but for some reason now, perhaps because of the environment, because people are already upset about Facebook, this story somehow resonated enough that people have been selling their shares. They have been tweeting to delete Facebook, and if millions of people actually do delete Facebook, that's going to have a massive impact on the company going forwards.
Thanks for joining us. Tweet your feedback using #ForbesFlash, and we'll see you next week. Tune in every Friday morning, same time, same place.